were simultaneous explosions that occurred along the route of the Boston Marathon near the finish line. These explosions occurred 50 to 100 yards apart. And each scene resulted in multiple casualties.
There was just this thick, blinding cloud of white smoke. They all started running. The coach told me, though, this is interesting, before the marathon, he saw bomb-sniffing dogs and bomb spotters on the roofs at the starting line, and it appeared to him there was some sort of active threat before the explosions went off.
At the start line this morning, they had bomb spotters on the roofs of the building, and they had bomb-sniffing dogs coming up and down at the start line, and Melanie said there was bomb-sniffing dogs at the finish line, but they kept making announcements saying to the participants, do not worry, this is just a training exercise. Well, evidently I don't believe they were just having a training exercise. I think they must have known, they must have had some kind of threat or suspicion called in.
There's a lot of stuff that happens behind the scenes and that the general public never knows about, never needs to know about. But in this case, apparently there wasn't a warning.
That happened also on Patriot Day, which is today, the first Monday in April. So that might have a special significance. And we know that the Homeland Security have, ever since President Obama was elected, been on potential alert for an incident that came from the right.
On days like this, there are no Republicans or Democrats. We are Americans, united in concern for our fellow citizens. Make no mistake, we will get to the bottom of this. And we will find out who did this. We'll find out why they did this. Any responsible individuals, any responsible groups will feel the full weight of justice.
We know that if it is Al-Qaeda or someone affiliated with it, we know there's been a risk. We know there's we've said for a long time that there was always a possibility of a bomber who worked alone, who was self-motivated, who was reading websites maybe but wasn't actually in connection.
If it was hydrogen peroxide, this is sort of a signature of Al-Qaeda. If it was more conventional explosives, which are much harder to get hold of now, that might be some other kind of right-wing extremist.
It could be homegrown extremists who, of course, have attacked in the past within America.
I've directed the full resources of the federal government to help state and local authorities protect our people, increase security around the United States as necessary, and investigate what happened.
And we have this omniscient belief that the military has all sorts of listening devices to get the bad guy. That's just not true, is it? It's a lot of hard work.
Well, it's a lot of hard work, but we do listen to a lot of things.
We will find out who did this, and we will hold them accountable.
Hello everyone, this is Dan Dix reporting for Press for Truth TV. Our thoughts and prayers are with the people of Boston today, as American citizens and people all over the world have just witnessed the worst bombing on American soil since the September 11th attacks. In a week that is filled with a history of violent events that have shaped and paved the way for the control grid that is the world we live in today, media pundits, politicians, and oppressors of freedoms worldwide are looking to seize this opportunity in an effort to gain order out of chaos. The state-run propaganda outlets have already begun to demonize patriot movements. Terms like homegrown terrorism, domestic terrorists, and right-wing extremists have already seeped their way into the official narrative by the mainstream media. But one question that is not being asked is Key Bono. Who benefits? Who is it that truly benefits from horrendous acts of violence? Well, with just a brief look into history, it becomes clear that it is always the authoritarian cabal or the ruling elite who will never let a crisis go to waste. This is true whether the chaos was generated organically or if it was orchestrated through a false flag attack.
In the year 64, Nero, emperor of Rome, destroyed most of his empire in the Great Fire of Rome. The self-inflicted wound was blamed on the Christians, who were then slaughtered by the thousands, paving the way for Nero to gain more control over the Roman Empire. On February 27, 1933, a horrific fire consumed the Reichstag building of the German parliament, which gave rise to the Nazi regime and placed more power in the hands of Adolf Hitler. False flags have consistently been used over the years to manipulate a population into freely giving up their freedoms.
It's too soon to tell who may or may not be responsible for the Boston Marathon bombings, but one thing is for certain. The government will do everything in its power to not only advance the Orwellian control grid, but also to crack down on those of us who seek truth and justice. So as we continue to shed light on the deeds that are done in the dark, let us never forget the words of the American founding fathers when they said, "Those who would give up essential liberty for the sake of a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety."